Alright guys, we're back in my garage for another video. If you're new to the channel, I use these videos to help keep you updated on the latest developments in our community, as well as discuss technical topics so that we have a better understanding of how our engines work. So if you're interested in videos like that, be sure to subscribe because there will be a lot more coming out in the future. So today we're going to be talking about the B58TU2 again. Hopefully you guys aren't getting tired of these videos, but if you're like me, I'm a little bit just anxious and impatient, and I don't really feel like waiting for BMW to trickle this information down to us. So I've been doing a little bit of snooping myself, and I've also gotten some messages from other followers on social media. Thank you again to everybody that has reached out to me with any bit of information that you do have. And at this point, I feel like I have enough data to actually put together a video and share it with you guys. So hopefully you enjoy this kind of detail. Eventually, we'll of course get more information from BMW and owners as these cars get out in the field, but I just wanted to tell you guys what I know. Also, I want to give a huge thank you to Kumar over at the BMW store in Cincinnati, Ohio. He is a big BMW enthusiast, and down here in Southwest Ohio, he hosts a lot of different car meets and events just to help support the BMW community, but he is also a salesman at the BMW store. So if you guys are interested in buying a BMW, I definitely recommend reaching out to him. All of his contact information will be down in the description. He's not just a salesman. Like I said, he's an enthusiast. He just got an LCI G20 himself. So very well versed in the BMW lineup and can help you get into the car that you want. So definitely reach out to him if you're looking to get into a BMW. And again, a big thank you to him for helping make this video possible. He was able to find me another X7 with the new B58, so I could confirm a few things that I just wanted to double check on. So first things first, I'm going to throw some, nomenclature at you guys for everybody that wants to be able to look up these details for themselves. The actual B58 engine code for the TU2 engine is B58B30M2. B58B30M2. So if you're familiar with B58 engine designations, then that should sound pretty familiar. The current TU engines are named B58, B30, M1, and O1. M1 is the 2-port version, and O1 is the higher output 6-port version. So now this new TU2, the 2-port version, is called M2, and we're all assuming that the new 6-port version that should be coming out with hopefully more horsepower will be O2. So that's just something to help you guys look it up if you're looking for more technical details. Also, the shorter name is B58N. So while the TU engine is either B58C or B58D, this 2-port TU2 version is B58N, and I'm still waiting to find out what the higher output 6-port version will be called. So now let's jump right into it with probably the biggest news and thing that people were surprised to hear is the new B58 uses 0W12 oil. So it's even lighter than what's in the current B58 that's out in the market. I think this was a really big surprise. It probably shouldn't be because several big oil companies have started advertising 0W12 oil. So it seemed like manufacturers were going to start shifting in that direction. But I just really didn't expect to see it on this generation of B58. Now, for those of you that aren't new to the channel, I try to speak from an engineering perspective since I'm an engineer myself. And I do feel like this engine will be fine. When people see this kind of stuff, they get really upset because they assume that the manufacturer just puts light oil in the engine to help save gas. But in reality, that's only a part of the whole picture of an engine that is designed to use lighter oil so that it can operate more efficiently. So with tighter tolerances, improved cooling, and just less thermal expansion and things that would require a thicker oil, you hope that this engine is designed properly to be able to use it and run safely for hundreds of thousands of miles. We can't really make any determinations yet. When people actually get these vehicles, they'll need to do their own oil analysis. We'll have to pay attention to TSBs and service bulletins and any recalls or anything that may come out. But again, this B58 is going to be their new flagship 6-cylinder engine. So I would definitely expect it to hit millions of units across the world. If it is a problem that the 0W12 oil doesn't hold up, we will know about it. So let's give it time, wait for some actual data before we, say anything is wrong with going this direction. And let's just really hope for the best because lighter oil doesn't just mean better gas mileage. It means a freer revving engine, more torque, less drivetrain losses, and better performance. So all around, if they're able to make this work, it definitely is an improvement for the enthusiast as well. Speaking of engineering, there are some other things to consider that they mentioned as a part of moving to this direction of lower viscosity oil. So the oil pump is still separated from the vacuum pump, and in this case, it's a much higher volume oil pump. So that helps get more oil to the different components of the engine much quicker. So you'll have a higher volume of oil flowing through the engine. This engine also is using eVanos, and Vanos is basically BMW's version of variable valve timing, and this is pretty commonly controlled with oil pressure pretty much for the past 20 years. Well, now it's electronically controlled, so that's one less thing that's going to put stress on your oiling system. So now, even though you have lower viscosity oil, you have less components that you need to worry about lubricating. The nice thing with eVanos is it does allow smoother startup and stop operation of the engines. When you start a car with a traditional Vanos system, you don't have the same opportunities as you would with eVanos because you need oil pressure to send oil to that cam gear in order to manipulate the valve timing. Since you don't have any oil pressure immediately when you start the car, there's nothing that you can do to optimize valve timing for a smooth engine start. Now with the electronic control, when you start the car, that electronic motor can immediately put the cam into the correct valve timing position so that you have the smoothest start possible. And also when using auto start stop, it'll give you the smoothest operation when you come up to red lights and stop signs and things like that. They obviously prioritize this for some of the cars that it's going into now, like the 7 Series and X7, where smooth operation is extremely important to their customers. But it'll be nice when hopefully that trickles down to more of the cars that we're interested in, and we can take advantage of those improvements as well. And then the last thing they did mention is they also added an additional oil temperature sensor into the base of the engine. So this will help make sure that everything is safe and reliably running within the temperature parameters that the engine is designed for. A big reason why you use thicker oils is because you need to compensate for thermal expansion. So if they're able to keep this engine running at a more consistent temperature, it makes it easier for them to use a thinner oil because you won't have these huge gaps that need to be filled. So hopefully with this additional temperature sensor and all of the other controls that they have, this should be a long-running engine with good reliability, even with a lower viscosity oil. Now moving on from that bombshell, I'll hit you guys with another one. The new TU2 engine does use a new DME. So this is using DME9, and this has its own encryption and pretty much everything that you guys are familiar with. The current DME that we're waiting to be unlocked, that timeline is going to start over with the TU2. So when this engine comes out and is more widespread and people are looking at tuning it, again, we're going to have to wait because it's going to need to be unlocked by a company. Even Femto reached out to me and said that it's something that they're going to have to work on separately because the current unlock process for post 2020 DMEs that are going over to them to be unlocked will not work with DME9. So restart the clock again. Hopefully this is something that they can figure out over the next couple years. I don't anticipate a lot of people with 740i's and X7s are just itching to tune their cars. So we have some time before this is dropped into more of the vehicles that enthusiasts tend to buy. But we'll just have to wait and see how long it takes for the technology to catch up so that we can unlock and tune those cars as well. Now let's talk a little bit more about the improvements from a performance aspect in the B58. So a big one that we talked about was the port injection. I found some additional images to show you guys exactly how it works. Again, this is very similar to the port injection that we install in our cars already. So basically the low pressure system feeds the fuel injectors in the intake manifold, and then the high pressure fuel pump feeds the high pressure injectors that spray directly into the cylinder. So really similar to what we have, but the big opportunity here is that it's all controlled by the DME. So you don't need a separate reflex or auxiliary controller that needs to communicate with your tune. You'll basically just have one flash, one tune to your car that controls everything. So that'll be really nice to have just to help everything work together and function properly. One thing I did see mentioned is that the port injectors are primarily for low load situations. So kind of when you're just cruising around. And then the high pressure injectors are designed for, higher boost levels and peak horsepower and peak performance. So again, the goal here would be able to use both of them at the same time. I'm sure the DME tuning would allow that once it's unlocked. And then if you can even upgrade those port injectors, you'll basically have unlimited flow through that car as long as, the rest of the fuel system can support it. So definitely a nice opportunity there. We'll have to dig into it more once we are able to really get hands-on and get some part numbers and things and take it apart. But it seems like it should work really well. The other thing that we talked about was the intercooler, and I didn't really have any data on it at the time of making the first video, but now we do know that the intercooler is significantly larger. It actually says it has double the volume, so way more cooling. Based on the documentation, it should improve cooling by about 20%. So way better performance all around. I also think it's interesting that they changed the direction that the coolant flows. So instead of flowing through a loop, it basically starts at the top and then flows down to the bottom, and you can kind of see how the heat gradient works. I think this is actually a really nice opportunity because it'll make the temperature more consistent across the cylinders. At least that's the goal. So while we're worried about cylinder 6 getting more heat and all of these other aspects of potential failure modes on early generation B58s, I feel like this should help provide a more consistent, amount of heat and IATs across all the cylinders that'll hopefully make for better performance and better reliability when it's pushed. Another thing that we talked about were the coil packs. Again, I didn't have a bunch of information then, but we do have a little more now. The coil packs do actually have better performance, so it looks like the spark should be brighter and be able to light longer than the ignition coils. They also kind of advertise them as smart coils where they can provide better information to the car, maybe throw some unique check engine codes depending on the failure mode of the coil pack, which will just make it easier to identify if there's a problem with them. So it's definitely a nice thing to have, even though B58s don't tend to have coil pack issues. It's nice to have something that can identify it directly and tell you that there's something wrong with the coil pack if it does fail. So I do think that'll be a nice opportunity. Again, something else that helps them get better emissions and better efficiency in the engine by having a better performing coil pack. But that also leads me into kind of the final thing everybody asks me: what can we retrofit onto older generation B58s? And I absolutely don't know. I don't think that we'll ever truly find out because so many of these things are controlled by the new DME and probably can't be controlled by ours. In a lot of cases, these things require more voltage, higher performing electrical systems, and just unique tuning for everything to work together. So I'm not really sure what to expect from that aspect. I mean, the intercooler might bolt up, but all of the coolant lines and water pump relocating that you would need to do to make it fit probably won't make it worth it. And with the port injection, same thing. I mean, do you really want to pay this extra money to retrofit some 300cc injectors? I don't really know if that will help you as much as the actual aftermarket solutions that we have, especially if you still can't control it with the DME. And things like intakes, people ask me if the intakes will fit, or if you get a new TU2 car in an M340i in, say, 2024, say you want to put an intake on it, can you swap it over? I don't really know. That's really something that we'll have to see once these vehicles actually land, especially since majority of those components are based on the engine bay layout, not the engine itself. So just be a little more patient. I'm impatient, I know, but we're going to have to wait and see as more of these cars hit the field and more people get their hands on them, what opportunities are actually available. Hopefully it's not too expensive. I think most people are assuming because it's an OEM part that it might be a little bit cheaper than the aftermarket. Sometimes that's not the case either. Time will tell. So yeah, that basically sums up everything that I have on the new TU2 engine. Again, I'll try to trickle information out to you guys as I get it, but hopefully this can hold you over for now. I know I don't have all the answers, and a lot of you guys are asking about, the engine internals. How reliable is it going to be? How much power is it going to be able to hold? We're going to have to wait for that. Obviously, we need people to actually push the platform before we can say anything definitive about that. And really, these cars have only been selling for a couple weeks now, so we'll really need to give it some time before we can definitively answer those kinds of questions. But yeah, that's it for this video. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope this helps. And if you have any other questions or comments, leave them down below.